Excellent. Try and be quick. Last talk of the day. Get out into the sun. I have 15 hectares of woodland, and I don't know what to do with it. Twice a week, probably, I get asked that. I get phone calls. 5 years ago, we were quite happily managing Douglas fir and Sitka spruce and having a jolly old time with sawmills, and everything was easy. 2 years ago, 3 years ago, this started to happen. Once a month or so, now probably twice a week or so. You come to a Nuffield meeting 5 or 6 times a day. And this has become a real issue. And what we're talking about here is not that fantastic 40-year-old in-rotation Douglas fir. It's the crap that everyone's got in the marshy area. It's on the steep hillside. It's the woodland that makes up probably 70% of the area of English woodlands. And so what do I tell them? Well, I could follow the Defra Guidelines. Defra, the government, we're going to burn it all. We're going to produce heat with it. Everything we can produce, we're going to put into biofuel. And that's what I'm meant to be telling them, but it seems quite low aspirational to me. And quite frankly, a limited market, and a commodity market at that. All that woodland that's difficult to harvest, difficult to extract, I don't want to tell people to be burning it. And so Nuffield became a great opportunity to see if the same situation occurred everywhere else in the world, and whether there were solutions to that. So for the 2 or 3 non-expert foresters in here, this is what happens. There's often a perception that a standing tree becomes a house by magic. It doesn't. And so we have down here the processing chain. We have roundwood that comes out of the forest. It's milled, it's kiln-dried, it's cross-cutted to take the knots out. It's engineered into a usable product. That's the complete supply chain. It produces the products on the opposite side. As you go down the supply chain, the value increases. And here's the problem, because in England, we stop at kilning, and we have no processing facilities to do the cross-cutting and the engineering. Once you get down to the engineering end, you've got a whole range of product classes to supply into. You have a diversified product. If you're at the milling and kilning end, producing green timber and exterior joinery, you've got very limited markets. And not just that, you're competing with the large mills that have 24-hour working. And so it becomes very difficult to make a return. It becomes very difficult to advise small woodland owners on what they're going to do with their woodland, because, to my mind, unless they come to the bottom of the processing chain, they're not actually going to make any money. And that's what I wanted to investigate. So everyone says, that's all very well, but where are you going to go that's comparable to the UK? Everywhere's different. You can't go to the States, they said, because it's all old growth forest. Well, it isn't. This on your left is in Oregon, and this is an old growth Douglas fir stump, and it's surrounded by new plantation forestry. And the plantation Douglas fir is no better than ours at all. On the right is a stand of Northophagus, Southern Beech in New Zealand, and it is garbage in terms of timber quality. It's very similar to our oak woodlands. But they're using it. And the way they're using it can provide very valuable lessons for us. This is a very dull, very geeky picture of what is very technically finger-jointed, defect-cut Northophagus falling boards. What you need to know is that it comes from rubbish. This is no different from the oak that's growing in most of our woodlands today. The difference is that it's going to be made into a laminated beam. And these laminated beams are almost becoming the be-all and end-all of timber processing in an awful lot of countries in the world, except for the UK. It has become the default standard for construction now. We don't use plain sawn timber very much anymore. We use this glued engineered timber. Just the act of sawing up timber, turning it upside down, gluing it all back together, adds about 10 times the value as if it was just a sawn beam. So why don't we process it here? Well, partly because it's become the norm in other parts of the world. And people have moved away. People have seen how the low-value commodity sawing, the competing with the major manufacturers, is no good. Time and again, I went to places that used to be sawmills that have got out of it because they couldn't compete anymore. And they've looked for those higher value areas. And they've made do and they've mended and they've created equipment. I saw plant that was cobbled together out of old fire hoses to produce these Glulam beams. I went to one place where they were turning very large beams into columns, where the homemade plant was so dangerous that they had a webcam in the corner, and when they set this thing off, they all went outside and watched it on the webcam until it was finished. And it's not just construction products either. People often think that craft timber is just playing, producing furniture, producing chopping boards. Well, I went to a chopping board manufacturer, and they pointed this out to me. If there's 50 million houses in the UK, let's say that half of them have wooden chopping boards. Your wooden chopping boards, I don't know, 20 by 15 centimeters. I don't have a TV, this is why I know this kind of thing. That is about 60,000 cubic meters of chopping board in the UK. This is big industry. And people like oak, and they like ash, and they like beech. They like all those wood types that we have in our undermanaged woods. This is Oregon Barrel Works. They produce barrels out of American white oak. They needed wood chips because big wine manufacturers don't like to use wood barrels. They use steel because it's cheaper, but they like to put wood chips in the steel barrels so you get the oakiness. So they bought an old pizza oven to start seasoning timber in. What they've actually got out of it on the right-hand side is thermally modified wood. Thermally modified wood is an ultra-expensive product that is coming onto the market today, and they are starting to produce it using a pizza oven. At the other end of the spectrum, this is in India, and this is a Sandalwood distillery built in 1919. It is pretty basic as you can get. This one distillation plant uses what is effectively firewood, and they control the world market in sandalwood. They watch the price of sandalwood on the stock exchange. When it goes to one level, they start production. When it goes beyond another level, they stop again and control the whole economy. But this is just firewood, and there's nothing special about sandalwood except that someone's discovered a chemical in it. Who's ever discovered chemicals or even done a study of the chemicals to be found in oak or ash? And that's one of the things that these countries are very good at. Their research is much better than ours. And the other thing they're much better at is moving timber into culture. And what I mean by that is they're not going out to schools to tell kids how great timber is or talking to the converted. They're making sure that timber is in the places where the people that influence other people go to. So if you're in Portland, in Oregon, or if you're in Auckland, or if you're in Toronto, when you throw your iPad into your courier bag and get on your fixed-wheel bike and go down to the coffee shop for your single estate cold filtered coffee, you expect it to be a wooden structure. You expect wooden chairs, you expect nice wooden beams. And certainly in Portland, this has been influenced very much by wood product cooperatives that have talked to marketeers, talked in very great detail about how they influence, and defined their customer groups and gone out to get them. Well, this is all very well, very interesting. I'm sure it's of some small relevance to some of you. But I ask you this, what happens when the Forestry Commission officer comes to your woodland in a few months' time with a compulsory felling notice because you've got Callara ash dieback? Or they come to your larch woodland because you've got Phytophthora. Or they come to your sweet chestnut because you've got sweet chestnut blight. And they say to you, you have to fell. What are you going to do then? Well, you've got a choice. You can sell it for firewood. But next door's got the same felling notice, and next door that way, and next door that way, and next door that way. and next door for a 100-mile radius, and they all want to sell for firewood. Why bother? So there was a very, at the time, esoteric part of my study that I thought there would be no relevance to anyone but a few very interested foresters. And that was specifically this building here. And this is the Olympic Oval in Vancouver, built for the Olympic speed skating. And it is entirely built of dead, diseased wood. So Canada is having problems that make ours pale into insignificance. Vast areas of dead wood, diseased, that they don't know what to do with. And the government has put an awful lot of time and effort into finding solutions to what to do with it. And they've worked very closely with businesses who have developed techniques to use this. They've done a lot of structural testing. And what it's come down to is that they produce very small section timber out of their diseased wood, so they can discard things that aren't useful. But this very small section material, they can then laminate up into very simple panels. Each panel then fits together to make these kind of buildings. And every single bit of timber you can see has come from dead material. And all of this is the kind of thing my employer, the Sylvanus Trust, is very enthusiastic about. It's the kind of work we do on a normal day-to-day basis. What has been really exciting, actually, is that Nuffield, and more specifically the Studley College Trust, could put their faith in me and saw the importance that perhaps forestry and woodland work does have something to offer. That actually, to the farming community and agriculture, woodland might not just be that little bit of land that there's nothing to do with, that actually there might be a return to come from it. And the potential of those returns might be increasing. And for me, what's even more exciting is that since I came back, I've taken on a new role with the Architectural Association, a large school of architecture. And the fact that architects are interested enough, to me, is taking the whole woodland agenda in a much bigger, brighter direction. And the work we do at the Architecture Association at Hook Park in Dorset is that we take our woodland, we take the thinnings from our woodland, we saw them, we have students come in and they design innovative buildings. This is our latest building, rather uninnovatively called The Big Shed. But the structure of this is Norway spruce from the forest. The cladding is a mixture of western red cedar and larch. Every single bit of material of this has come within 500 meters of the building, and there is no special metal in it. It's all screwed together with 6-inch screws. I think that's all to say. Thank you very much.